You know that feeling? You grab a book, maybe something you're really excited to learn about. You spend hours reading, highlighting, really feeling like you're absorbing it all.
Oh, yeah.
And then weeks go by and you try to recall something specific from it. And it's just gone, like it vanished into thin air.
It's incredibly frustrating, isn't it? You put in the effort, the mental energy, and it feels like, well, like so little of it actually stuck around when you need it.
Right. And that exact frustration is kind of the starting point for the source material you've shared with us today. The author, Thibaut Miris, talks about spending hours reading an entire book about learning, no less,
Right, the irony.
only to realize he could barely. Exactly. So, our mission today is to do a deep dive into this source, Master Your Learning, a practical guide by Thibaut Miris, the material you've provided.
Yep.
It seems packed with practical techniques and, maybe more importantly, crucial mindset shifts. We're going to unpack the core ideas from this book to help you move past that frustration, navigate this, overwhelming world of information more effectively, and really turn learning into a powerful tool to achieve your goals.
Sounds good. Get ready for some hopefully useful insights.
Okay, let's dig in. So, the book starts by setting the stage, emphasizing just how critical learning is in the first place.
Yeah, and he frames it in a really interesting way, not just as like acquiring facts, but as the ultimate goal-achieving process.
Oh, so.
Well, he argues that whatever goal you have, if you're not there yet, it's fundamentally because there are still things you need to learn or skills you need to acquire to bridge that gap.
Ah, okay, so learning is the bridge.
Exactly. Think about it. In a world where almost any information you could possibly need is like instantly available,
Right, fingertips away.
your ability to actually learn from that information, to effectively use it to get from where you are to where you want to be, that becomes your superpower. Learning gives you like power on demand.
But that brings us right back to that initial problem, doesn't it? If the information is available, but it just washes over you, then what good is it? That frustration the author felt.
Yeah, reading about learning and not retaining it.
That's the core challenge we're talking about.
And this really highlights some key misconceptions people have about learning. It's not really about having a naturally photographic memory or being some kind of speed reader.
No, the book argues those aren't the primary barriers. The real issue, according to this material, seems to be failing to identify the most relevant information first.
Right, filtering the noise.
Within the flood of stuff you're consuming, and then failing to encode it properly, making it stick.
There's that other huge trap he mentions, confusing recognition with actual knowledge. Thinking, oh yeah, I've seen this before, I recognize it, so I must know it.
Oh, I do that all the time.
We all do. But that recognition is passive. It's like recognizing someone's face but having no idea what their name is or anything about them.
Right, not real knowing.
True learning requires active engagement, processing, encoding.
Mhm.
And that's probably the biggest pitfall he emphasizes. Treating learning as this passive activity, just rereading, underlining, passively listening, it's just not enough. It demands actual effort, mental effort.
Okay, so if it requires effort and it's not just passive consumption, what is learning at its core? The book provides this really solid foundation, the roots of the tree, as the author calls it later.
Fundamentally, effective learning isn't just about, cramming facts into your brain. It's really about becoming a better thinker, improving your ability to process information, organize it, make sense of it.
I like that idea he presents of turning chaos into order. Information alone doesn't really have inherent value, does it?
Not really. Its value comes from how it connects to your goals and how you actually use it. So you need a clear objective first, a why, that allows you to filter and select only the appropriate information for that goal.
So it's as much a process of elimination as it is acquisition, getting rid of the irrelevant stuff.
Precisely. And this processing ability, this making sense of things, is significantly enhanced by using powerful mental models.
Mental models, explain those a bit.
They're like high-level frameworks or principles, cognitive tools, essentially, that help you understand complex situations, sort the relevant from irrelevant information, and basically make better decisions faster.
Gotcha. And the book shares some really applicable examples for learning itself, right? Like the 80-20 principle.
Yeah, the Pareto principle, the idea that often 20% of your effort, or maybe the information you focus on, yields 80% of your results.
So for learning, instead of trying to learn everything about a topic,
Right, which is impossible and overwhelming.
you should try to identify that crucial 20% that gives you the biggest bang for your buck. The core stuff.
Exactly. Or take Parkinson's law. Work expands to fill the time available.
Uh-huh. I know that one well.
We all do. Applying this to learning means setting deadlines forces you to prioritize and focus on the essential, that core 20% again. Having too much time can actually lead to inefficiency, getting bogged down in unimportant details.
Okay, that makes sense. Deadlines create focus. What about the Newton's law one?
Newton's first law of motion, an object in motion stays in motion. So if you build a consistent learning routine, even a small one, you create momentum. It gets easier to keep going.
And stopping that routine.
It creates resistance when you try to restart. Consistency, even in really small amounts, builds that crucial inertia.
So these models are like mental shortcuts, helping you process things faster and better.
Kinda, yeah. He also talks about how learning helps you discern nuances, like increasing your resolution of understanding.
Like zooming in on a picture.
Exactly. You start with the main concepts, the big picture. But the more you learn, the more details, subconcepts, and connections become visible. He uses the example of a chess grandmaster
Oh, okay.
who sees patterns and entire sequences of moves, not just individual pieces, because they've built this incredibly high-resolution understanding of the game over time.
Or his own writing example, right?
Right.
Where he started noticing subtler things like sentence rhythm and word choice.
Yeah, layers of understanding beyond just, getting words on a page. It adds depth.
And this increased understanding, this higher resolution, it actually feels like it slows down time. That sounds counterintuitive.
Well, for the expert, yes, because they can anticipate. They process information in chunks, like a zipped file, applying these models almost subconsciously, whereas a beginner has to process every single bit of information in real time, which feels much slower and more effortful.
Okay, that makes sense. So understanding what learning really is and having these foundational concepts, the mental models, the idea of increasing resolution, that's key.
Yeah.
But then you need the right mindset, right? Those roots in his tree analogy.
Absolutely. And a really powerful concept here is shifting your identity. He talks about moving from I do something to I am something.
Okay, like his example of shifting from I write books to I am a writer.
Precisely. So for learning, it's about moving from I'm trying to learn X to I am a learner, or even better, I am an incredible learner.
How does that help?
Embracing that identity fundamentally transforms how you approach challenges. It makes you much more resilient when things inevitably get tough because it's part of who you are, not just something you're doing.
That's powerful. And speaking of challenging old beliefs, what about the I'm too old to learn thing?
Oh yeah, he tackles that head on. Don't let that idea hold you back. The book shares these amazing, inspiring examples. Fauna Singh running marathons when he was over 100.
Wow.
Grandma Moses starting her painting career at 76. People getting university degrees in their 80s and 90s. Julia Child publishing her first cookbook at 50. Colonel Sanders franchising KFC at 62.
Okay, point taken. Age is genuinely just a state of mind when it comes to acquiring new skills.
It really seems to be. And that ties right into focusing on the process, doesn't it? It's easy to get discouraged when your big, ambitious goal feels impossibly far away. But if you focus on the small, consistent daily steps, writing a few sentences, learning a few new words, practicing an instrument for 30 minutes, that's where the real momentum comes from.
So trust the process.
Exactly. The process is what ultimately leads to the result, even if it feels incredibly slow day to day. Accumulation is powerful.
And what about when you hit those inevitable moments of, feeling demotivated or frustrated?
The book encourages you to actually embrace them. They're not signs of failure. They're natural parts of the learning journey. A roadblock simply means you're moving forward. You've reached a new stage where you need to adapt or learn something new to get past it.
Huh. You can't hit a roadblock if you're standing still.
Right. So it's actually a sign of progress in a weird way.
That's a good reframe. Now, there was a fascinating bit about leveraging your subconscious mind.
Yeah, this is really interesting. The idea is your conscious mind sets the goals, but your subconscious is this incredibly powerful goal getter that's working 24/7 in the background.
How does it work?
It's constantly scanning your environment conversations, things you read, experiences for information, ideas, and opportunities related to the goals you've consciously set.
So by setting clear learning goals.
You prime your subconscious to help you notice and absorb relevant information almost automatically. He also mentions using positive affirmations like, I can learn anything, or learning is inevitable for me, to help align your subconscious belief system to support your learning journey.
Okay, fascinating. So mindset is set, identity shifted, subconscious primed. Now, how do you figure out what and how much you should actually be learning? This next section seems crucial for clarity and strategy.
Absolutely. The book gives 3 key filters or criteria for deciding what knowledge or skills to pursue. First, Your level of interest.
Passion matters.
Definitely. Learning things you're genuinely passionate about provides inherent energy and grit. You don't have to rely purely on willpower when things get difficult, because the interest itself pulls you forward. Your intuition about what excites you is important here.
Okay, interest first. What's second?
Usefulness. How does learning this specific thing help you achieve your overall vision or goals, career, personal life, whatever?
And considering the opportunity cost, right?
Exactly. By choosing to learn this, what are you choosing not to learn? Does it have enough reach to impact various areas of your life? And think about character traits, too. Does acquiring this skill help build valuable qualities like self-discipline or confidence?
Good point. Usefulness. And third?
Timeliness.
Yeah.
Is this relevant right now?
Yeah.
Do you realistically have the time and energy, considering everything else on your plate?
And crucially, can you put this knowledge or skill to use immediately?
Yes. He really emphasizes this. We forget most things we learn if we don't apply them fairly quickly. Learning something you won't actually use for another year might just be wasted effort right now. Focus on just-in-time learning where possible.
That makes a lot of sense. Avoid just-in-case learning. And how much time should someone realistically dedicate? Does he give guidelines?
He provides some very general benchmarks, acknowledging it depends heavily on the individual and the goal. For instance, intermediate learners might aim for maybe 3 to 5 hours a week, advanced learners maybe 5-10, and those aiming for mastery could be looking at 25-35 hours per week.
Wow, that's a big jump to mastery.
It is. And he also touches on rough hour estimates for different skill levels. Like, a minor skill might take 550 hours total to acquire. An intermediate skill, maybe 5,500 hours. And a major skill, 500 plus hours.
So you can probably juggle a few minor or intermediate skills, but a major skill requires serious focus.
Right. Major skills demand prioritization.
And none of this planning matters without setting specific goals, does it?
Not really. As the saying goes, you cannot hit a target you don't set. Goals are what clearly define that gap between where you are now and where you want to be. They give your learning direction and purpose.
He has a specific technique for goal setting too, right? Making them vivid.
Yes. Emotionalize your goals. Create a detailed, sensory-rich memory of already having achieved the outcome.
Like the piano example.
Exactly. Imagine yourself confidently playing that piece at a family gathering. Hear the music. Feel the keys under your fingers. See the smiles on people's faces. Feel the pride.
Or the Spanish example, picturing yourself conversing fluently on a beach somewhere, feeling relaxed and understood.
Right. The aim is to generate a real, tangible surge of motivation by feeling the emotional payoff of achieving the goal now.
That's a cool technique. And you don't have to figure out the path all by yourself either. He talks about finding blueprints.
Yeah, don't reinvent the wheel. Research existing blueprints or best practices from experts who have already achieved what you want to achieve. Look at books, articles, maybe sites like Quora. Find mentors or coaches if possible.
Like his own self-publishing strategy example.
Exactly. He studied successful authors, read books on the topic, listened to podcasts, analyzed bestsellers in his genre to figure out what worked. He found a blueprint.
Okay, so find a blueprint. Then what? Big goals can still feel overwhelming.
Chunk it down. Break those overwhelming goals into ridiculously small, manageable tasks. An entire book. Daunting. But reading one paragraph. Doable. Then another. Then maybe a chapter.
Fluency in a language seems impossible.
But learning 10 new words today. Practicing one specific grammar point for 15 minutes. Totally achievable. Small wins build momentum.
Makes sense. And the last point in this section was about optimizing your environment.
Yeah, surround yourself, even indirectly through the content you consume, like books or videos, with disciplined people who embody the values you admire. Consume high-quality information from credible sources. It sharpens your thinking and implicitly pushes you to improve. Be mindful of who and what you let influence you. Good advice. Okay, moving on. The book returns to that tree analogy to talk about strengthening the trunk.
Okay.
This is about fundamentals.
Exactly. This is a really crucial point he makes. A common mistake learners make is getting lost in the branches and leaves. You know, all the endless details, the fascinating anecdotes, the specific statistics.
The shiny objects. Right. While neglecting the trunk, the core concepts, the fundamental principles of the subject.
What happens if you do that? If you focus only on the leaves?
You end up with a collection of scattered, isolated facts that don't connect. You might know the date of an event, but you don't understand why it happened or its lasting impact. Your foundation is weak, which leads to information overload, feeling overwhelmed, and ultimately poor retention because nothing anchors the details.
So what makes up the trunk? What are these fundamentals we should focus on?
He details a few key types: core concepts, the basic building blocks, like supply and demand in economics, or the structure of a cell in biology. You need to understand these deeply.
Okay, core concepts.
Major principles, those mental models we discussed earlier, like 80-20, which increase understanding and can often be applied broadly across different fields.
Right.
Laws, unchanging rules, especially in fields like physics or mathematics. Theories, hypotheses that explain phenomena but might evolve as new evidence comes to light. And for practical skills, fundamental moves, the essential actions or techniques.
So nail the fundamentals before getting lost in the weeds.
Pretty much. Build the trunk before you worry too much about every single leaf.
Okay, so we've built the trunk. Now, how do we water the tree? This section is about the essential learning techniques, the how-to of making information stick.
Yes, and the central idea here circles back to what we said earlier. Learning requires effort. Specifically, effortful recall.
Not passive review.
Definitely not. You have to actively try to retrieve the information from your memory without looking at the source. This act of trying, even if you fail at first.
Even failing helps.
Yes, even failing to recall signals to your brain that this information is important and actually strengthens the memory trace when you eventually check the answer. It's the effort that counts.
Interesting. So what are some key active recall techniques from the book?
Well, one simple but really powerful one is immediate recall. Right after you finish reading or listening to a chunk of information, say a chapter or a section, just close the book or pause the audio. Ask yourself, what was the main point there? What's really worth remembering? What part is still unclear to me? Just that simple act forces retrieval.
Okay, immediate recall. What else?
Summarizing is another great one. Putting what you just learned into your own words, either write it down or, maybe even better, explain it out loud to yourself or someone else.
That forces you to identify the key points and immediately shows you where the gaps are in your understanding.
Exactly. If you can't summarize it, you didn't really get it. Note-taking can be useful too, but only if done actively.
Meaning not just copying things down verbatim.
Right. Don't just transcribe. Have a clear goal for why you're taking notes. Use your own words as much as possible. Add your own comments, questions, connections in the margins, and crucially, review them soon after taking them.
He mentioned a study about that, right? Successful versus less successful students.
Yeah, the A students almost always reviewed their notes the same day, consolidating the learning. The C students rarely did. Review is key for notes to be effective.
Makes sense. And then there's teaching.
Yes. Teaching is often considered one of the absolute most powerful learning methods. Trying to explain a concept to someone else.
Or even just pretending to teach it.
Yeah, recording yourself explaining it, writing an article about it. It forces you to recall, summarize, structure your thoughts logically, and elaborate clearly. If you can teach it well, you almost certainly understand it deeply.
Okay, what about elaboration? How does that fit in?
Elaboration is key for making connections and achieving that deeper understanding. It's about connecting new concepts to your own life, using specific examples, metaphors, or analogies that resonate personally with you.
So not just repeating the book's examples.
No, coming up with your own. If you can't generate your own examples for a concept, you probably haven't grasped it deeply enough. Like applying the tree analogy from this book to explain its structure, or thinking about how supply and demand affects rent prices in your specific neighborhood. Make it personal.
Got it. And then there's doing the skin in the game idea.
Yes, from Nassim Taleb. Learning in real-life situations, especially those that have some consequence, or even a little bit of healthy stress. It forces intense focus and seems to forge neural connections much faster than just learning passively from a book.
Like actually trying to speak the language you're learning, even if it's scary?
Exactly. That's skin in the game. Now, beyond these active recall methods, there are two really crucial principles for making sure the learning lasts long term.
Okay.
Spaced repetition and distributed practice. Spaced repetition is about reviewing material at increasing intervals over time.
So not just reviewing it every day.
Right. Maybe you review it tomorrow, then in 3 days, then a week, then 2 weeks, then a month, and so on. You review it just as you're about to forget it.
Why does that work?
It leverages our brain's natural forgetting curve. By reviewing just as the memory trace is fading, you powerfully signal to your brain, nope, this is important, keep it. Flashcard apps like Anki are brilliant for this because they use algorithms to schedule reviews automatically based on how well you know each item.
Great for vocabulary, facts, core concepts, that kind of thing.
Definitely. And the other principle is distributed practice. This is basically the opposite of cramming.
Spacing out your study sessions.
Exactly. Spacing out your learning sessions over time. Just like physical exercise, where your muscles need rest between workouts to actually build strength, your brain needs time between focused learning sessions to consolidate those memories.
So studying for, say, 30, 45 minutes every day is much better than one marathon 8-hour session on the weekend.
Much, much more effective for long-term retention. Aim for consistency, maybe 2-3 times a week minimum, depending on the goal, balancing that consistency with reasonable intensity in each session.
Okay, spaced repetition for review, distributed practice for study sessions. What was the last technique? Interleaved practice.
Yes, interleaved practice. This means instead of dedicating a whole study block to just one specific thing, like only practicing backhands in tennis or only solving quadratic equations,
You mix things up.
you mix different subjects, skills, or problem types within a single study session. So in tennis, you'd mix forehands, backhands, volleys, serves. In math, you'd mix quadratic equations with geometry problems and maybe some algebra review.
That sounds harder.
It feels harder initially, absolutely, because your brain has to constantly switch gears, figure out which technique or concept applies, and retrieve different information. But that very effort, that desirable difficulty,
That's what strengthens the learning.
exactly. It significantly improves your ability to discriminate between concepts and recall the right method for the right problem in the future. It leads to more flexible and robust learning compared to just blocking practice on one thing at a time.
Okay, lots of powerful techniques there. So we've covered the roots, mindset, the trunk, fundamentals, and watering techniques. Now, what about pruning the tree? This sounds like dealing with overwhelm.
It is. It's all about tackling information overload and distraction. The book points out a major modern problem. The input is vastly greater than the output.
Meaning we consume way more information than we process or use.
Precisely. We're drowning in it. And this leads to several problems. Weak foundations, because we don't digest anything deeply, feeling constantly overwhelmed or paralyzed, suffering from shiny object syndrome.
Always chasing the next new exciting piece of info.
FOMO, fear of missing out, and often just a pervasive feeling of inadequacy because you can never keep up.
So, how do we prune? What are the practical tips?
It involves consciously and deliberately reducing your information consumption. Be ruthless. Unsubscribe from newsletters you don't really read or need. Severely limit time spent on infinite scroll platforms like social media, YouTube feeds, and endless news sites.
Turn off those notifications.
Oh, definitely turn off most notifications. He even suggests considering a full information diet for a period if you're feeling completely swamped, just to reset. The key is shifting focus from quantity to quality. Be incredibly selective about what you let into your attention span.
And remember that true knowledge isn't just collecting facts, right?
Exactly. It's about building a web of knowledge where conflicts are connected and you understand the context. It's not just about remembering isolated facts. Can you explain the concept simply, in your own words? That's a better test. Knowing the date of the French Revolution is trivia. Understanding its causes, context, and consequences is knowledge.
That's a great distinction. Okay, so the final part of the book seems to apply all these ideas to different specific learning situations.
Yeah, putting it all together for different types of learning goals. For conceptual learning, understanding subjects like history, economics, science, philosophy, those techniques we discussed like active recall, elaboration, spaced repetition, and especially teaching are invaluable.
And starting simple, building mental models, reading widely, using writing to clarify thinking.
All crucial for building that web of conceptual understanding. Now, for practical skills, things like learning to code, play a musical instrument, learn a sport.
Doing is key here, right?
Absolutely. This relies heavily on procedural learning, on practice, and specifically, the book emphasizes deliberate practice as the pathway to high-level expertise, not just mindless repetition.
Okay, what makes practice deliberate?
It's intentional. It's highly focused on specific, well-defined goals just beyond your current ability. It requires your full concentration, no distractions, and crucially, it involves getting immediate, accurate feedback so you can identify errors and make corrections.
And there's a difference between how average performers and top performers practice.
A huge difference, according to the research cited. Average performers tend to spend most of their practice time doing things they already do reasonably well. It feels comfortable.
Whereas world-class performers,
They spend something like 80% of their practice time deliberately working on skills that are new, challenging, and just outside their current comfort zone. They embrace the struggle.
that's the stretching idea again.
Exactly. Constantly practicing just beyond your current ability stretches your brain, forces adaptation, and develops new neural pathways. And interestingly, When you then return to skills you found difficult before that stretching period, they often feel much easier.
So the steps for practical skills are set specific goals, find that blueprint, create a strict practice schedule, break the skill down into sub-skills.
Including drilling the fundamentals relentlessly, even for experts. Think of Tiger Woods constantly working on his basic swing mechanics or elite musicians practicing scales.
And then practice deliberately with intense focus and feedback.
That's the essence of it.
Okay, the book also dives into a couple of specific case studies. Learning foreign languages is a big one.
Yeah, it tries to demystify it a bit. Languages take time and effort, absolutely, but they are definitely learnable with the right approach and consistency. He presents two main methods people often use.
What are they?
One is what you might call direct learning. This focuses on speaking from day one, getting that skin in the game immediately, embracing mistakes as valuable feedback, and prioritizing active speaking and listening skills early on.
Kind of intense, like the fluent in 3 months approach.
Can be, yeah. It requires consistent, dedicated practice, often several hours a day initially. The other approach is input learning.
How's that different?
This focuses initially on consuming massive amounts of comprehensible input reading materials and listening content that you can mostly understand. You'd use tools like Anki for common vocabulary, maybe study some basic grammar, but the main engine is understanding messages. Speaking ability tends to emerge more gradually later on.
More like how babies learn their first language through immersion and comprehensible input.
Exactly. And the book touches on the Foreign Service Institute's estimates for language learning hours, which really highlight the different levels of difficulty. Languages closer to English, like Spanish or French, might take around 1,500 hours for proficiency.
Whereas languages significantly different, like Japanese or Chinese,
Might require 4,000, 5,000 hours, or even more, largely due to factors like writing systems, grammar, and sound systems being so different. Gathering the right kind of input materials is absolutely crucial for the input method to work effectively.
Okay, interesting contrast. And the final case study was standardized tests.
Right. These are different because they usually have a very defined curriculum and a clear endpoint, the test itself. So they require a highly structured strategic approach.
What are the key steps there?
First, know exactly what's expected. Get the official test format, content outline, scoring criteria, understand the beast.
Then gather materials.
Yes, gather all relevant materials, paying special attention to past official exam questions. These are gold. Create a strict study schedule, and crucially, set a concrete deadline by actually registering for the test. That adds accountability.
Good tip. Then what?
Assess your starting point with a full, timed mock exam under realistic conditions. See where you stand. Then, the core is practicing answering actual test questions diligently, simulating the test environment.
And learning from mistakes.
Absolutely critical. Learn from every single mistake. Don't just see you got it wrong. Figure out why you got it wrong. Was it a knowledge gap? A misread question? A calculation error? Go back and fix the underlying issue.
And track progress.
Definitely. Measure progress regularly with more mock exams, maybe every month or two. Analyze the results. Where are you improving? Where are you still weak? And constantly adjust your study plan based on that data, focusing more time and effort on your weakest areas.
Very systematic.
It has to be for standardized tests.
Okay, so bringing this all together as we wrap up, the core message from Master Your Learning seems to be that becoming a highly effective learner isn't about some innate talent you either have or don't.
No, it's really presented as a process, a set of skills and mindsets that you can actively cultivate and improve.
It starts with building the right mindset, seeing yourself as a capable, even incredible learner, shifting that identity.
Then being strategic, clearly identifying what's most relevant to your goals and why, considering usefulness and timeliness.
And building that strong foundation by focusing on the fundamentals, the trunk, before getting lost in the details.
And then consistently applying those effortful, active learning techniques, things like recall, summarizing, teaching, elaboration, doing, spaced repetition, interleaved practice to truly encode information and make it stick long-term.
It sounds like by mastering these principles and techniques, you really gain this incredible advantage, not just in learning itself, but in navigating the sheer volume of information out there, and ultimately in moving effectively towards pretty much any goal you set for yourself.
That seems to be the promise. It's not necessarily a perfectly neat or linear journey. The book acknowledges there will be chaos, frustration, plateaus along the way.
Sure, learning can be messy.
But focusing on the right process, staying consistent even with small steps, managing that information flow, pruning distractions that will inevitably lead to significant progress over time. The book's core belief seems to be you really can learn almost anything you desire if you approach it correctly.
Okay, so a final thought to leave our listeners with. If becoming a master learner, as this book defines it, is ultimately about selecting the most relevant information and encoding it effectively to get you from where you are now to where you truly want to be, what is the single most important piece of information, or maybe the single most important skill that you need to acquire right now, today, to take the very next tangible step towards that goal that really excites you most? What's your immediate focus?